Hi everybody, this is Miles, Fox and Miles.
And
we're here.
Lisa! And Fluffy.
Yes, and Fluffy.
And we're just here, where are we?
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Miami.
We're in Florida. We're in Florida and we're just doing a quick interview with Miss Lisa here.
Yes.
And yeah, how you doing, Miss Lisa?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm going to turn it over to Fox because she's better at this interview.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so my first question is, who is Lisa?
Who is Lisa? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness gracious. Who is Lisa? You know what? I'm just a nomad traveling this country, enjoying everyday life.
Yeah.
That's who Lisa is.
Yeah.
It's just very simple.
Yeah. No, I like that because a lot of people, where they first introduce themselves, it's like what they do or like,
Right.
you know, what titles they hold, that kind of thing. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So who were you before you started RVing? Like,
Okay,
where
so
were
before I started
Yeah.
okay, that's a little different.
Okay.
That's a little different. Yeah, so before I started RVing, I actually have a business that was started by my father. It's a medical weight loss business, and my father was a physician, and we worked together, and then when he died in 2004, I continued his business. So I continued his medical weight loss business, but in 2016, when I turned 50, I realized that my life at 50 was exactly the same as it was at 40. And it was a good life in DC. I had, you know, all the things that you have, but just the repetitiveness of life was getting on my nerves. And my father had died in a car accident at 62, you know, alive one minute and dead the next. And when that happened to me, I just saw life very differently and very precious, and I just didn't want to keep doing the same thing. And somehow this RV life, nomad life popped in my mind, and about a year after it popped in my mind, I left. I figured out how to really manage my business from the road. Yeah. And my staff supports me, I support them, and I'm able to travel.
Yeah. So what was that transition like for you? Like moving from, I guess, like the DC, like we talked about the DC professional life, like into being a nomad. Like what was that process like for you?
Probably the hardest thing was the downsizing. I think because you've created this life with all of these things. So as I was downsizing, what I realized is that all of these things that I had were part of that old life.
Yeah.
And my new life was not a part of those things at all. So for example, I used to do some entertaining, so I had all those, you know, Pyrex dishes and crock pots and all those things. Well, I don't need that in RV life, and in the clothes and just a lot of those sorts of things that you have when you have a regular life, sticks and bricks, you know, regular professional life, that as a nomad, at least for me, I didn't need anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it was. So that's really the physical transformation. But really, I think the mental thing is just realizing that not only do you not need the physical things, but you also don't need a lot of the other mental things that go along with regular life. So, you know, I don't watch TV. I don't really listen to music or I kind of got off of social media. I mean, I just have a very simple, very quiet life, and it really allows me to really appreciate sort of every moment of every day and take all of those things for what they are.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful, adopting a quiet life, because we know in DC it's not quiet at all.
Not quiet at all.
It's busy all the time, whether it's traffic or just, you know, especially like on Capitol Hill, like that area, political.
Exactly.
There's always something going on. And you mentioned like you got off of social media. So like, why did you do that, and like what like benefits have that yielded to you?
Again, I just think it's just a lot of noise. And when you have so many things coming into you, especially things that really have nothing to do with you, right? Nothing to do with, at the end of the day, what your life is about, but you allow those things to take up space, whether it's in your mind, mentally, or even physically having a lot of things, then to me, you can't really think clearly, you can't appreciate. And if there are things that you're trying to figure out, it's harder to figure those things out when you have a lot of noise.
Yeah. It's funny because it's so silly, but like a lot of people will think like, oh, well, what about my shows, or what about, you know, being connected to other people? A lot of people use social media to connect to other people. So like, how do you maintain connections without like like disconnecting from social media?
So what's interesting about connections is that I have been able to see people who I haven't seen in 10, 15, sometimes even 40 years, and to be able to go and spend time with them in their regular lives. You know, just on a regular, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's not like we're all on vacation and we're on vacation mode. I'm able to be with my friends in regular life. And so the depth of connection that I'm able to have is incredible. More of a depth than I would have been able to have in my regular life, and with people that I wouldn't have been able to have those kinds of relationships with. I mean, I have one of my line sisters in St. Louis. I was able to spend a month with her. Yeah, I would have never been able to do that in regular life. And to see people that you know maybe never came back for homecoming or never came through DC. To be able to do that has just been incredible. And now it's funny, I have a lot of people saying, well, when are you coming to see me? You know, when are you coming to wherever? I'm like, I'm coming, I know, I'm coming. I'm like, so,
it's on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list. It's on the list. And they like it too, because then I'm kind of calm and they sort of get to see how I live very simply, especially because they knew me from before. So to see such a dramatic change and to see sort of how much more calm I am. I don't know, it's a great experience.
That's really
Do you
cool.
get people that want to try to visit you, like while you're out on the road?
Yeah, I've had probably about 5 or 6 different people fly out, which is amazing. They're just like, okay, Lisa, where do you think you'll be in a month? I'm like, okay, let me figure it out. So yeah, I've had one of my best friends fly, or actually 2 friends fly to Seattle. With one of them, we drove up to Washington in Canada. The other one, we hung out in Seattle. I had a friend, or one of my line sisters, fly into Minneapolis. I've had somebody fly into Las Vegas. My mom flew into Phoenix, and then we traveled. So it's been really great. And for most of them, they're like, yeah, see how you do it, Lisa, but maybe not. Maybe not this small. But they appreciate what I'm doing.
That's really cool. So when you talk about like your impact on people, like I know that like we talked last night about this, but like how your lifestyle then inspires other people to either like chase a dream that they might have, or like to pursue something, or to be disconnected from the things we think we need to be connected to. Like, what has been your experience with inspiring other people?
So I never try to convince anybody, well, except for you guys, to stay full-time RV life. But in general, to me, it's not really about RV life, but it is about deciding how you want to live your life, making a plan, and then implementing that plan. Because I do think, well, first of all, you got people who have no plan and they're just kind of living. But then you have people who, yes, maybe they want to do something different, make a plan, but a lot of people don't actually implement. And that's like, I think, the hardest part, especially when you're doing like a major pivot with your life, like something that I did. But there are a lot of people who want to travel who may not want to travel in an RV. They may want to travel internationally or whatever, but they have so much in their regular lives, just all of the stuff, that now it requires a lot of money to house all that stuff. But if you simplified your life, you know, maybe you don't need a 2,000 square foot house if it's just 2 of you or just 1 of you, and if you could downsize the amount of money you would save, you then could travel. So it's just, to me, it's about, we spend so much money on a lot of things that maybe just temporarily give us some joy, but I think a lot of times it's the experiences that you really remember more than the things.
And that's one of the reasons why we did like last month. We tried to anyway. It didn't really work out that well, but we tried to do like a no spend December. So like
it was bad.
It
didn't work well.
Because we were traveling and it was just this whole other thing. Right. But the idea was, we did the year before then. I think we did pretty well that time. But the idea was like, you know, Christmas time is in December and everyone wants to give all these gifts or these things. And so what we thought was like, well, we were downsizing and we didn't have anywhere to put any stuff. But also, it's not about the thing, it's about the person who gave it to you.
Right.
So I would much rather spend time with the person than with the thing they gave me. Because I mean, look at kids, and you know, I'm grateful for gifts and things like that. But you look at children when they get gifts on Christmas Day, they're really excited about it. But then like, you know, maybe 2 days later, they're not playing with it anymore, you know?
Right. And so like a perfect example of that. So one of my very good friends, we've been friends since freshman year in college. She was getting married, and so she was having her bridal shower. So I decided to go there and surprise her. I flew in. but I didn't bring a gift, you know, and I told her, you know, kind of my whole attitude, because I really haven't given gifts in years, because it's just, we all have everything that we need. I mean, we really don't need anything else.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, but I did tell her, when you're going through and you're opening the gifts and you have your spreadsheet, you're not going to see anything from me. And she understood it, because she knows how I live.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
So to me, kind of going there was,
that's the gift.
that was more the important part.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're talking about community, we're talking about visiting friends that you may have seen like in the past or went to school with, things like that. How do you build the community and cultivate community now? Like, because I think a lot of people might be like, oh, I'm by myself, I'm not gonna be able to hang out with anybody. But listening to you, like, you've been a lot of places where there might be like meetups or like events. So like, what is your process in like picking the events you go to and like meeting people there?
So really my process is, if I hear about something that I want to do, then I just go.
Yeah.
That's really my process. If something falls in my lap, then that's what I do. And so by going to, whether it's like a Black Cowboy Festival, or I've gone to some other RV nomad convergences, and you meet other people. So like, I have this one friend, her name is Julie, and we both started out RV life at the same time 2 years ago. She was coming from Michigan, I was coming from Maryland, and we first met up in New Mexico. And I've met up with her about 4 or 5 times in different parts of the country. And actually last summer, she's from Grand Rapids. I was actually able to go there and stay on her in her mother's driveway for a week, and that was great. And so we became friends because we were both solo women nomads.
Yeah. No, that's really important. And I love the fact that you're just like, oh, if I'm interested, I go. Because you know, like, because we think like, oh, like there has to be a process, right? There has to be some sort of like strict plan that you stick to. But it seems like in your travels, like you're just kind of like, you're always open to changing your mind.
Always. I've sat in my driver's seat and changed my mind. Mostly because of weather, but sometimes because I found out something was going on somewhere else, and I'll completely change my mind as to where I was going.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I kind of have themes, like I sort of want to go that way, but the direct route, or if I need to change it, I'll change it.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, every moment of every day for me is my decision, and that's a very powerful place to be.
Yeah, that's good. So what it sounds like to me is like freedom. Like, I don't know, that's like the word that just comes to mind. So like, in your words, like, what is freedom to you? Like,
well, it's interesting. I have a couple of tattoos, and my first tattoo in the 90s was a symbol for freedom.
Oh, wow.
So it's been something that I've been kind of seeking all along. Freedom and peace. Yeah. Those are kind of my two. Well, and spirituality, but we'll say freedom and peace. And so it's something that I've wanted for a long time, and it really wasn't until RV life that I actually got it. And like I said, the ability to choose every moment of every day as to what I want to do. Like even meeting up with you guys, you know, probably less than 24 hours before I met up with you guys, I was going to be going somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you said this is where you're going to be, but you're going to be leaving, I was like, okay, well, I'll just go there instead.
That's cool.
And that's amazing to be able to do that on a Tuesday.
It is. It really is. It really is.
With my home.
Yeah. With everything you need. Yeah. And it's cool because yesterday we were talking about this a little bit, but in the beginning when we first started RVing, we thought we had to have this plan. Like, we're going to go here at this date, this time, whatever. And then again, on the second leg, we're just like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, wherever we really feel like going, we'll go, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned, it's a couple of questions back, but in regards to your pivot, you're making your, you know, this dramatic pivot in your life. I know we've had conversations before about how like your friends and family at the time weren't necessarily like open to that. Like, one, how was dealing with that, and I guess going through the process of making that pivot and dealing with people who are close to you. Like, it's different when, like for us, when we put videos up on YouTube about what we're doing or whatever, and people online may say some stuff, but it's always different when it's people actually closer to you.
For
like our parents are probably still not okay with us RVing and stuff like that. So like, that would be the first question. And the second question is, like, when you were making that transition after you dealt with that or whatever, did you at all feel homesick? And I know you've mentioned, you know, like this is your home now,
right?
You know, but
right.
before you are where you are now, like, did you wrestle with that at all?
Okay, so in terms of the people close to me, I think the people closest to you are the ones that try to define you the most.
Yes.
Right? They have these certain expectations of you. And especially with my life in DC, my life was very much like many of the people that I was around. And there's nobody who did what I said that I wanted to do. And so it seemed off. And so, yes, they were concerned. They definitely thought that it was a problem. But as I started talking about it, and then I think also people who've actually seen my RV, they're like, you know what? I get it. I get it. You know, and now that I've been out here and people have seen what I've done and what I've been able to experience, they're like, you know what? I get it. You know, I really understand. And again, while maybe I wouldn't want to live in an RV, I sort of understand, you know, the mentality and the process and some of the freedoms and the letting go of all this stuff. In terms of being homesick, not at all. I mean, I call my mother every day.
Sure.
I find the 3 hardest questions are, where are you from? Where do you live? And what's your address? Like, I don't know really, and I'm always like, it depends on who's asking. It's like, if you're a cop, I got a different answer than if it's just a friend. So like, I really don't have answers to that because I really do feel like wherever my RV is, I'm home. I mean, I have all my stuff. Everything that I need is here. And it's weird because I lived in DC for 16, 17 years. But I mean, I grew up in Columbia, Maryland, you know, but now it's just, I don't really have an answer for any of those things. So really, it really is wherever I park it. I'm home.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is really cool. So as far as like challenges, what have been some challenges that you faced RVing? And they don't have to necessarily be like, you know, life-changing challenges. They could just be like random annoyances. But like, what are some things that have been challenging you as you've been traveling?
So one thing I try to do is if there's something challenging, then I decide, is it a lesson, a test, or I shouldn't be doing it in the first place. That's kind of the first way that I sort of look at things. But the other thing I do is if something is challenging, then I try to figure out how to make it not a challenge. So for me, the biggest challenge was weather. Okay, I don't like to be too hot or too cold. And that first winter I was in the desert, and believe it or not, it gets really, really cold in the desert, and I got cold, and it was cold in my RV, and I was uncomfortable, and I just didn't like it. And so what I did was I got a better battery. I have a lithium battery. I got solar, and then I have a way to have an external propane tank. So now, even if it's cold, well, now I can just turn on the heat, and I don't have to worry about, oh, is my battery going to run out, or whatever, am I going to run out of propane? You know, and so that's what I did. I fixed the thing that made me uncomfortable. And so now I'm not uncomfortable anymore. There was another scenario. So my RV is about 11 feet tall. And so they actually make GPSs specifically for RVs that take into account your height, your weight, and all those things. And I kind of just gotten it, and so I wasn't really using it. And I was in the desert, and I was only going about 40 miles, so I didn't put it up. Well, Google sent me down a path with an 8-foot tall tunnel. Only one car could go through it each time. You know, so here I am approaching this thing, and I tow a car. When you tow a car, you can't back up. So here I am approaching this 8-foot tunnel, right? Knowing I'm not going to be able to get under there. So I just stopped and looked around, and I said, I hope I can hook this U-turn.
Oh my God.
And just waited for traffic to go and turned it as hard as I could, went all up on the curb. I mean, scratched up the side of my RV a little bit, but I hooked that U. But, you know, the lesson was always use your RV GPS. You know, and so that's the thing. You know, I really try to, if I do make, you know, a mistake, if you want to call it a mistake, I really try to only make it one time.
That's good.
One time. You know, so now I always have my RV GPS and I always have another GPS Google running, because without having a co-pilot, you know, sometimes you never know what scenario. Let's say there's an accident or just whatever, you know, so a GPS can go out. So I always have 2 GPSs running.
That's cool. perfect.
But I think really that's the only challenge. I haven't really, I don't know. I just kind of take things for what they are. Even within the first couple of weeks I was on the road, I was staying at a state park in Birmingham. Went out to start my car wouldn't start. So I get out my jumper cables, open up the hood. Well, squirrels had gotten in there and eaten out the entire electrical system. You know, so I kind of had these plans of where I was going to go. Well, I couldn't do that anymore. But you just kind of roll with the punches because, again, I'm not in a rush anyway. So, you know, I'll get there eventually.
Absolutely.
So I think those are some of the things, especially when you're by yourself. And, you know, also as a woman, that can kind of break you.
Absolutely.
You know, or somebody who doesn't look like all the other people that are out there when you're faced with some of these challenges, especially early on in your journey, you can be like, you know what, I can't even deal with this. But kind of as I was saying to you guys, you know, we're doing something that's so different and so amazing that people just usually don't get to do that. Even if they're a couple like what I call, or my father called botherations, they're just botherations. You know, it's a pain. It's a pain, but you get out, you get over it, and it's such a small part of what we actually get to do. I mean, like you guys said, you were able to see the Milky Way, you know, in the forest of Colorado. I mean, that's incredible. It is. That's incredible.
It is. Beautiful. I also like what you were saying about like not rushing. I think that's something that we had to learn. Like this whole lifestyle is like taking life slower and rolling with the punches. And so there's nothing wrong with going slow. And oftentimes when you go slow, that's when you catch the beauty, right?
Exactly.
So like, I know you mentioned last night you were talking about like smelling the roses. You said everywhere.
Yes. Whenever I see roses, I smell them. Yeah. And there's another saying that I heard this from someone that says, you don't have to pay a lot, but you do have to pay attention. You know, and so you can see little things on the, you know, the side of the road or whatever, you know, because you don't, again, because if you don't have all that noise in your mind, like, oh, what were they doing on Facebook? I need to check my Instagram, you know, that you might see something really cool just like out the side of your eye, and then you can go and experience something incredible.
We've definitely taken a lot of detours where it's just like, oh, well, that's here. Let's just try it. Because we don't have to be anywhere. You
don't have to be anywhere. That's like really the beauty. And so who cares if traffic's crazy? Like I know a lot of, you know, that there are RVers who hate travel days. I'm like, I mean, who cares? You know, like why drive 10 hours? Why not break that? Like I'll take a 10-hour drive and break it up into 3 days. Just cause. Like why? There's no reason to push myself.
What is the rush? And amidst all the places you can stay for free, like overnight, like even if it's just for a night, you know, to really take advantage of what you're near.
I don't stress myself out.
So what is some advice that you would give other women or other people who want to try this lifestyle? Like if they're like, oh, I don't know, like,
My first piece of advice to everybody, stop buying stuff. Just stop.
That's good.
Just stop. You really don't need anything else. Like you really don't need anything. That's the biggest thing, because a lot of times the finances is what really stops you from being able to do a lot of things. So you got to get your finances together. But make a plan, you know, and whether it's, you know, there are people who retire early who just save up a bunch of money and can retire early. There's some people who have jobs that they can do remotely. People may be working remotely already. At home. You know, at home. And so, you know, you could talk to your managers and say, well, if I'm doing it remotely already, you know, can I travel? The other thing is that you don't have to be a full-time RVer. You can be a part-time RVer. You know, you can really make it be whatever it is that you want to be. You don't have to define your life by how everybody else is doing it. Like I remember somebody said once, well, you know, what percentage of time do you boondock? And I'm like, I mean, who cares? I don't know. You know, how long does it take you to hook up your car? I mean, I don't know. Who cares? I mean, I try to be efficient, but like, there's so many things, like, it doesn't matter. Just, who cares? So once you kind of let go of a lot of that pretense, you know, and another thing that's interesting is that, you know, when you do leave your social circle, nobody really cares what you look like. And there's there's a lot of freedom in that. There's a lot of freedom in that, you know, especially, you know, when you're used to putting on all the stuff. So then when you start to kind of pull back the layers as to, well, why am I doing that? And you do have a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, I like getting dressed up, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, but when you're at your most comfortable, You know, when you're at home, what does that look like? Yeah. Is it full makeup and hair?
Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable. You know, and like I generally always have on tennis shoes because I never know, like I don't wear, you know, the rings and all that stuff because I never kind of know when I might want to go on a hike or if something happens with the RV and I got to look under my RV. So I'm kind of always ready. I don't carry a purse anymore, you know, just so I do things like that. But it's just a very simple way of doing it. I don't have a lot of stuff, accoutrement.
Yeah. Living light. Living light.
I'm very, yes.
And also learning, like, to love yourself in the way that you were made, as opposed to like making yourself be loved, right?
Right.
I think that's really
right.
That's really cool.
At the end of the day, nobody really cares. Like they really don't care.
Not really.
And most of the time, I am not around people that I know, so they really don't care.
Yeah.
And there's such a freedom in that.
Yeah. What is like the hope that you have for? I guess do you see this as a season, or do you see this as like you're just gonna? This is like the plan from here on out. Like
my life?
The plan. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's absolutely nothing I would change about my life. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. And I except to go home if I needed to take care of my mother. Like that would be the only reason I would go back to Maryland. But going back to a regular, you know, working in the office and that whole thing and sticks and bricks and no. Because to me, that's the hardest part. Once you can cross the line into living very simply, and you can handle it, I see no reason to go back.
Right. Yeah. Why make it complex?
Why make it complex again? Because I've seen some RVers, they go back to regular life, and now they started getting all that stuff all over again.
It's so easy.
I know, but it's just I don't know. It's just stuff. It's not experiences.
Yeah.
You know, now, so like I went from my life being the same almost every day to now every day is different. Like there are no 2 days of mine that are the same.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that is cool. That is
and
really
after
cool.
being out here for 2 years, I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of things. And it could be even a simple day of, like if it's, let's say it's rainy or cold, I have a foldable table that I can put out here and I do 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles.
That's so cool.
Nice, yeah.
And I'll just do a jigsaw puzzle just looking out at wherever I'm looking out at.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid of like that quiet. I think a lot of people are just afraid, because even when you think of like buying things, it's like a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people buy things to feel something, right?
Well, that's really the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Getting to really just peel back all the layers and just you and your own thoughts. It's scary for a lot of people, because then you have to address maybe some of the things that you've dealt with, and sometimes people don't want to do that. But I find that it's really in the silence is where I've been most productive and most powerful. And really it was in silence how RV life came to me. If I hadn't been in silence, I don't think it would have come to me, because things happen so slightly. I mean, just the briefest of lightest thoughts came to me that made me go and look online for an RV, or you know, change the channel to something about small living. They're very, very, very slight. That with the noise I would have never heard
it. Could be easily missed. Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, we pile on so many layers that you don't get to kind of who you really are. And then you use other things to cover it up. Like you were kind of asking about like TV shows, I think. I think the reason I don't get into those things is because I'm not necessarily that interested in somebody else's story and somebody else's life. And a lot of things with like TV shows and books, it's all kind of contrived drama. And to me, that's just more just energy I don't want.
For sure,
Whereas I'm so comfortable in my own thoughts and in my own moments that's where I would rather be, and I don't really need to escape, for lack of a better word.
A lot of people don't realize that, like, I'm covering up things. Or even like when you're talking about discovering who you really are, like what they say, like you are the sum total of your, was like 8 people or something? How many people?
Interesting. Okay.
Like the people around
you hang with.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
Yeah, like if you show me your friends, you can show me you. Like that's another way to say it.
Interesting.
And so it's amazing how many people come to a group of people and then make themselves to be accepted by them. But it's like, but do you know who you really are? You know what I mean? And I think, like you say, like being quiet, taking time to yourself, really kind of, I guess, it kind of forces you, for lack of a better word, it forces you to like really look at yourself, you know?
Right, because if you're around, you know, these 8 people or whatever, then you wonder, are your thoughts really your own, or are they thoughts of the group? And for me, I never quite fit into the DC life. I mean, I did it, but I just never quite felt like it was me. Being out here is me. Totally. But again, nobody else was doing it. And like another interesting thing, so for example, probably almost everybody we know is in a book club, either currently in a book club or has been in a book. Like you got to be in a book club, right? Like what? You're not in a book club, right? So for me, so I'm actually dyslexic. So reading is very hard for me, and I never enjoyed it. But the thing is, if everybody's always talking about, are you in the book club? Why aren't you in the book club? Then I would kind of make myself try to be in the book club, even though I wasn't really comfortable and it was not enjoyable to me. You know, so it's things like that when I realized I don't have to be in a book club. I don't have to want to be a reader because that's not something that is enjoyable to me. I mean, I can read, but you know, but it's just not something that I like to do because again, I'm not interested in being in somebody else's story or reading about somebody else's story. I want to have my own life and my own thoughts and my own story.
That's really good. That is really good. Period. But like, especially about, it's almost like these fake rules are set in place where we feel like we have to do these things to fit into these things.
Exactly.
Right? And really like,
I was gonna say it's a form of survival.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to feel
outcasted
or alone or anything like that. So they'll jump on board, like the idea of the book club. Like, you know, like if everybody's over there, like
I got to be over there
too.
So to say I don't like to read, I mean that is
a lot of
you
people
know,
be like,
that's crazy. You know, or to say, you know, I don't want children. You know, that's another one. It's like, oh, but everybody wants children. You know, or most people. I mean, it's different now, but you know, it's things like that. But what if that's not really you? But you're making yourself do this because that's what everybody else is doing, or that's what society tells you to do, or that's what your family expects you to do.
That's good. Breaking away from those expectations and really working because. So I've been in this place recently, just a kind of a side tangent, where I want to live a free life and I want to live a life of ease. And so I think a lot of times we put like stumbling blocks in our own way. Again, like you said, trying to fit into this group or fit into this mold. And it's like you said, if you don't like to read, okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? That doesn't make you less of a person, you know, but society will tell you that it does.
Exactly.
Or if you don't want to like make, you know, again, we talked about the money thing, like we don't necessarily need $1 million. You know what I mean? But if you're not striving to like be rich. And,
right. If you're not on the grind.
Then something's wrong with you.
Something's wrong with you.
And it's like, no, I want to live a life of ease. I want to know what is enough for me and then be able to supply that. And then also maybe, you know, save because just in case.
Right.
But the idea of enough really puts in context like what is important and what's not, what's extra, and what's easeful. I know it's not really a word, but like what is bringing ease into your life. So yeah, that's really good. So you're a solo Black woman out here RVing, and so there are I know there are people that have been interested in it and you know, I think it's important to really consider like I guess the climate of the country and all this other stuff. But what has your experience been like being a solo Black woman traveling?
So just the term you mentioned, the climate of the country, the climate has really been determined by the media. So we believe that the country is a certain way because that's what the media is saying, and then maybe other people may or may not think something about us because of what the media is saying. Right?
For sure.
But in my experience, and I've been all out west, all in the Midwest. I mean, I've gone 8 weeks and maybe seen 5 Black people. Is that I just try to deal with people individually, and people have dealt with me individually, and I've actually had no problems. And if anything, people have been extra nice to me, very helpful. And so I generally say, as long as people are either nice or indifferent, I'm fine. But I've not had one person get in my face, say anything. I haven't even heard anything out the side of my my ear. You know, I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing like that. But you would think that it's crazy. Now, I'm always aware, and I don't do stupid things.
Right.
But it's not like what you think. At least my experience.
Sure,
It's not like what you think it's like. You have to get out there and go slow. You know, like for me, I'm kind of a little more comfortable in cities than in the middle of nowhere, where some people are more comfortable in the middle of nowhere than in cities. So it just depends on what you're into, but you go slow and just take it day by day, step by step.
I love that because trying to communicate that to other people, and again, that's why I want to share other people's experiences too, because you know, one, our experience is not everybody's experience, and my experience is not everybody else's experience. But I also want people to know, like, we're not just like the anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are people out here who are doing the thing.
Well, there's a few of us.
Well,
I mean, like solo Black woman RVers. If they're 20, I would be really, really happy if there's 20 of us. Hopefully there's a bunch watching this, and then maybe we can all connect. Like, that would be great. But I really don't think there's a ton of us out here.
No, that is like its own little sub, for sure.
I wish there were more. You know, I definitely wish there were more, and that would be great. That would be great. And, you know, quite honestly, anybody who does want to come out, if you reached out to me, you know, I'd be more than willing to, you know, camp with you or hang out or talk or whatever, because I would really like for there to be a few more of us out here.
That would be great. Did you have any recommendations or something you want to promote, or something that's been helping you along the way that maybe might help somebody else? I know it could be anything, even if it's just being quiet, not taking in so much.
Yeah, I think if you can learn to stay in silence, I think a lot would be revealed to you about your path and maybe decisions that you're trying to make. But you got to get quiet, for sure. For sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for doing this interview.
Sure.
Yes. And so now, would you want to do the
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm here with Lisa, and we are going to take a tour of her.
Yes. So this is my home. It's called a 4-axis 25.2. It's a Class A. It's about 25 feet long. And I love it because a lot of RVs have slides, and I do have a slide, but it's in the rear, so you'll see that. It's a little windy out here, but I like that I have a great window to look out of, and especially when I drive and I'm kind of high, so that makes it nice. I have an external propane tank so that I can run the heat when it's cold, like last night, and that way I can just change out that propane tank versus having to take my whole RV.
That's cool.
And I have a couple of solar panels on the roof.
Jump up there.
So this was called a slide out. So my bed four down. And all four wheels are down. Fiesta 2016, which is nice, so I can just pull it along. I don't have it out because it's windy, but there's an awning here. It's really nice. That I like. So again, the nice big window. What I like is this right here, because I can sit here and drink my coffee and look out the window, which is really nice. In terms of driving, what I really liked was that it's just a regular steering wheel.
Yeah.
So I can sit here, and as long as you can see out the windows, which I can't, I mean at the mirrors, and then there's a rear view camera here, then I've never had any problems driving it. So, because a lot of times, the bigger RVers have these big, weird steering wheels. This is just a regular steering wheel, so it's really easy for me to drive. So I love this. this thing right here actually drops down into a bed. So I've had a friend and her daughter stay here, so the daughter stayed up there in the bed. And then I have my couch here. Notice I don't have a dinette because I didn't need a dinette. So, but this actually pulls out, and that can be made into a bed.
Okay, cool.
And there's plenty of storage over here.
Yeah.
Nice sink.
Yes.
And so I have a 3-burner stove, and I only have 2 cooking appliances or things. Cast iron skillet and a saucepan. That's it. I don't have there's no oven here, just the 3.
Okay.
And I never use a microwave because back in the day we didn't have microwaves, so if I just need to heat up something, I just put a top on this and it kind of creates like an oven. My favorite color is purple, so you'll see like all my curtains. My best friend Wanda made those for me, which I love. It was so nice of her to do that. And I painted my refrigerator purple as well. And then I have actually a pretty big bathroom, and especially shower. So RV size, it's a pretty good shower.
That is a nice shower.
It's way bigger than our.
Yeah, it's a decent sized shower.
Yeah.
So that's that, and purple there. And then this actually closet. See how there's hanging space in here, and then I just roll up all of my clothes.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, once I unroll them, the wrinkles fall out.
Oh, nice.
Really?
But and obviously I don't have an iron, but I do have a steamer if I ever needed to get any wrinkles out. I can use a steamer. And so this is the bedroom. And so remember, I'm saying there's a slide here. So what happens is this bed comes up like this, and then that whole thing slides forward.
You're right.
And that's how the slide is in. But what's nice is, as you saw when we were outside, the slide is out and my car is still hooked up.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have full access to my home, even when the slide is, or even when I'm hooked up.
Yeah.
And I can have the slide out, which with a lot of RVs, you can't have access to everything with your slides.
Yeah.
So I like that about that.
Awesome.
So, yeah. That's everything.
I have a question. When you say you tow your car four down.
Yep.
Was there any problem with the transmission or anything like that? We got like mixed reviews about it.
So I have it's a 5-speed.
Okay.
So it's a stick.
Got you.
It's a stick. So I just have to put it in neutral.
Got you. Yeah.
And take the parking brake off. So
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything with the ignition or anything like that.
Okay.
Because you guys have to. Well, I know you're on a dolly, but don't you have to do some funky stuff?
We just gotta tie the tires to it.
You just gotta tie the tires.
And it just rolls.
Okay. Yeah, I specifically bought that car. Actually, I bought from the tow bar back.
Okay.
It was a couple that was going to go full time, decided not to go full time, so they sold like the whole kit.
Oh, wow.
The tow bar.
That's
That's
perfect.
cool, yeah.
And the car.
Yeah.
So it was already set up.
Yeah,
So I just had to hook it up to the back of
That's really cool.
the RV and drive it off.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it was
really
great.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, I really love. You mentioned you had a shade that you could see.
Yes. I usually have it up, but we're only here for a night, so I
Yeah.
didn't put it up. But basically, it's called a Magna shade. It's
Magna
purple
shade.
too, but I can see out, and people can't see in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I do like to just kind of be incognito. I don't like people to see me in here.
Yeah.
So with that, you can't see in. So it's really nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I've like set up my these screens right here.
Yeah.
And when I don't have the lights on during the day, you can't even see me sitting in here.
Okay.
And that's
cool.
what I like. Yeah, I don't like
cool.
people all up in my beeswax.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Understandable.
So what's your favorite thing about your RV? If you have a favorite thing or favorite things.
I think the fact that it's small and nimble and that I can fit in my friends' driveways.
Yeah.
Like I can fit in a driveway and their car can be parked next to me and I have full access to my RV. Again, because I don't have side slides.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I fit in some really cool spots.
Yeah.
Like in Atlanta or in St. Louis or wherever in a driveway.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's one thing I like about your RV is that it is a Class A, but it's small. Mm-hmm. It's small. Like, because I feel like every other Class A I've seen has been like.
Oh yeah, most of them are monstrosities.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
huge.
most are at
Massive.
least 30, 40 feet. Yeah, they're big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
mine's little.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's something that I feel like I could manage. You know what I mean? Like the
Oh,
Class A
totally.
is like you talk about the big wheel and stuff. It's like, okay, no, this
This
too
is
much.
actually the same chassis that you guys have.
Really?
The Ford E450. It's the same chassis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
really
you could
cool.
drive. I mean, don't you notice, like, it looks exactly like yours?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's the same chassis.
That's really cool. Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Fluffy.
Yes. Thank you.